All right, you guys know what day it is. It is the day after league start, and it is the day where GGG released a league with a lot of overtuned. Well, I don't know if I want to say overtuned, but potentially very, very lethal, scary monsters. And everyone needs to be reminded of the basic defenses for their character. So we're just gonna get right into it here, and we'll do this scene and just do a quick little one take here of the defenses that you want to get. And I experienced this as well yesterday. Through the campaign, I felt totally fine. I actually didn't even click on the lanterns or anything. I didn't bother with manipulating where the mods were or whatever. But as soon as I got to maps, even just early white maps, those mods felt incredibly brutal. And I had to really kind of take a little bit of time and make sure that my defenses were up. So let's just get into what you should do. So first thing is, as soon as you finish the campaign, number one thing, cap your res. I was being very, very stubborn yesterday, and I just couldn't get any lightning res on any of my gear. So I was like, you know what? If the game's not going to give me res, I'm just going to smash my face into monsters until I get gear with res on it. Didn't work out. So I did make a little of a concession here, and I ran Purity of Elements for a long time. If you don't know, Purity of Elements is a great aura. If you're not using it in the campaign already, after you kill Kitava, this is a great way. Just immediately 30% of all of your elemental res, and you become immune to all elemental ailments, including Sap, Scorch, and Brittle. This particularly is a great aura. A lot of people use it in the campaign, but I recommend at the very least after killing Kitava, unless you have some sort of ailment immunity other than that, this will be night and day for your quality of life. It'll help you cap your res right away, and that freeze immunity, that'll be the next thing we talk about, is just freeze and shock, actually. I think those are the two things that you really need to solve right away. If you don't have anything for freeze or shock, you're going to be very, very uncomfortable. And the way that most people, at least for, the early game, get their, or early mid game, when you're mapping, get your freeze immunity is to upgrade your Soul of the Brine King. You want to get a Reef map, and you can currently buy those for about 4 chaos per. Let me see if I still have the search up. Let's see. No, it's stinking Profane Proxy is very expensive right now. Let's see. Reef map. Search for it. You're going to see a lot of people here listing items for stuff that you're not actually going to be able to buy for. So I bought mine for 3 chaos about an hour ago, but it looks like the price is going up. This is just a tier 8 map, so the price will go down again if you want to wait, if you're not kind of blasting really, really quickly. But yeah, honestly, even for 5 chaos, I think it's worth. You want to get a Reef map, and then you also want to get a Divine Vessel. So Divine Vessels are actually very common. So they're 3 chaos right now. These are very, very common from rituals, actually. And mine was just a ground drop, but yeah, very common from rituals. Recommend getting a Divine Vessel. Currently, that's an 8 chaos investment for freeze immunity, but I do think it's worth it. It's a little pricey. I get it. It's worth it. Get that freeze immunity a little bit later on. Once you're getting established, still recommend that Purity of Elements ASAP. I think that's really big for you. And then the next one is shock. So if you don't know what shock does, it just makes you take increased damage. It's increased damage is an additional more multiplier on the damage that you're going to be taking. So if you take 100 damage and you have 10% increased damage taken, it's 110 damage. And shock can get up to 50% for 50% increased damage taken. That will make a hit that takes you to 33% life just kill you outright. So yeah, very, very big. Anytime that you got to 33% life or lower, if you were shocked, if you had a full shock effect on you, you would have been dead. It is the silent killer, because oftentimes it's very hard to just tell, hey, this hit came in with lightning damage. If it's too fast, you don't notice that you got shocked, you will just die. Not to mention shocking ground, stuff like that. One thing that you can do is the Soul of Garokan. This will do 60% reduced effective shock on you. You can get other sources of reduced effective shock on you. This helps a little bit early on, but you really don't want to do this. You won't notice a gigantic difference with just this alone. First thing, recommend just doing something in Purity of Elements. In my build, however, when you move away from Purity of Elements, recommend getting Tempest Shield right here. And this will just give you full immunity to shock, as well as 24% chance to block spell damage when you're holding a shield. This is also just really, really nice. In addition to any spell suppression that you might have, feels really good. First off is cap your res and think about your ailments. Shock and freeze are the most important to deal with ASAP. So, at the very least, Purity of Elements, and then think about alternate ways to deal with that later on, because you probably don't want to run that aura forever. Next up is a little bit later, but Chaos Res. A lot of people running around with negative 60 Chaos Res for a long time. Chaos damage is very common right now, particularly in the Arch Nemesis modifiers or the additional modifiers that we see, going into different zones. Particularly in a lot of these modifiers that you get, I've seen a number of Physis Chaos, stuff like that, stacking with those Arch Nemesis modifiers, anything where enemies poison. Chaos damage is more common these days than it's ever been in the past. Strongly, strongly, strongly recommend dealing with that ASAP. Wow, okay, I didn't know that. I just learned apparently if you click that X, it just leaves the default and opens the map no matter what. Okay, rip that map. Luckily it was a tier 1. So I'm currently doing early red maps at the moment. I'm in about tier 11, tier 12 maps, and I have positive 9 chaos res. I just got it, but at the very least, try to get an amethyst ring. Amethyst flask is really inconsistent. Don't recommend that. Craft the chaos res, the hybrid chaos res. Get this ASAP from your betrayal unveils. Get these guys. You can get up to 15% per, and it's worth the 3 chaos. You see, I did craft it on my boots right here just to get an additional chaos res. Let's try to get at least positive chaos res before you hit red maps, and then by the time you're hitting late red maps, I recommend at least 30, 40 chaos res, and no matter what later on, try to cap it. And then we got life. This kind of goes hand in hand with everything, but it's like the main determinant, right, of your EHP. You have all your defensive layers, but then how much, are those defensive layers going into your life pool? So my general rule of thumb is about 3k life when you kill Kitava. That's usually 300 HP per act. That's like the usual rule of thumb right there. And then by the time you hit yellow maps, I recommend 3,500 life. And then by the time you're in red maps, or at least like late red maps, try to get about 4k. And obviously if you have different defensive layers and you have a different scaling build, but this is just for like a normie build, kind of regular rule of thumb that you should aim for. Try to have at least 4k life by the time you're hitting solid red maps, probably tier 13 plus. I might fall short of that a little bit just because I'm pushing kind of hard right here. I got like pretty bad life, just got crafted life, honestly, on pretty much every single piece of gear. Actually, I think I literally have that except for just on my boots. So just to remind yourself about that. Flasks, make sure you have flasks that are useful right here. You can go to the trade site, at least if you need a jade flask, if you need a granite flask, usually whatever stacks with the auras that you have. So if you have grace, get a jade flask, determination, get a granite flask. That's a very big multiplier against the aura that you have, or that base number that multiplies with your aura that you have. And that helps a ton. 1500 evasion right here. That is pretty much doubling my flat evasion across all of my other gear. This doubles my evasion, and then we get increased evasion as well on a suffix. I got it right here on my Quicksilver flask. Also, where those suffixes are on your flasks, this increased evasion, it's not a multiplier against the specifically the flat. It's a general increased evasion. So it doesn't matter which flask the suffixes are on. They're global. So you don't have to worry about that. All right, last up is your build-specific defenses. I'm keeping this for last because I want this video to be a little bit more generic. But for my build specifically, I'm going to go over what I did. This build has a lightning coil for physical damage mitigation. You can use a Cloak of Flame as well, or you could go for a rare that's all rolled up and all that. But Fizz taken as, particularly if you're playing like a normie witch type build that doesn't get a lot of armor. The hardcore versions of the build usually go into a lot more armor, but because we're playing softcore trade, we can just go for a lightning coil. Currently, you can buy them for 4 chaos at time of recording. 4 chaos for a lightning coil. I bought this last night for 9 or 10 chaos because I was just kind of rushing it. The big thing here is 50% of physical damage taken as lightning damage, period. This gives you 37% because it goes against your 75, 50 times 0.75. This will give you 37% of your physical damage is 100% mitigated. This has value that scales better than armor, and actually it stacks with armor, but this will give you more physical damage mitigation than if I went all into armor gear and I ran determination in terms of just like generic mitigation right now. Obviously, determination on top of that would be even better, but this allows us to mitigate enough physical damage that we're actually very comfortable, and then we can lean into grace, particularly because this build is going to the right side of the tree. We are now able to go into evasion right here, run grace, get hit many, many fewer times, and we'll be very comfortable right there. Obviously, the really annoying thing here is overcoming that negative 60 lightning res, but the flat armor and evasion that you get on a Desert Brigandine, the life that you get on here, allowing you to not take the life mastery, I think is just really worth it versus a Cloak of Flame. Not to mention going from 40 to 50% is just really good. That's another 7.5% of physical damage mitigation. So this is a thing is like, because these mods in these maps are so scary, normally you could get away with a lot of this stuff, you could like not get a lightning coil until late red maps. Normally you could not worry about really getting into spell suppression. Like I rushed spell suppression this league. Normally you could get away with not really getting into it until late red maps. Lightning coil, you could normally dual wield and feel comfortable that way until you hit late red maps. But particularly because of these very scary modifiers. Look at that. 75 fizz is extra cold and 10 cold pen. That is brutal. That's absolutely brutal. And obviously you can customize this, put it on a monster that only casts lightning spells so they get no benefit out of it. But still, like these modifiers are incredibly strong. And I think it's very important to pay close attention to those and understand just like really how scary those things are. And then last up is probably just round out everything else in your build. Like really think about it. Like I went into my Tempest Shield, get your spell suppression, get your lightning coil. This was a league with an only optional mechanic like Wildwood Affliction last league, where you could just run a normal map. You could 100% just get away with kind of waiting and just kind of running your maps, not getting your defense early. But this is a league where you 100% have to do defense first, get your damage a little bit later. Oh, and then last up, I didn't want to miss this, is a lot of softcore builds will take their 4th Ascendancy as their defensive one, and including this build. And I recommend rushing this ASAP. I actually just got it a few minutes ago. You can currently buy Offerings of the Goddess. Obviously, prices will fluctuate. We're on day 2. But buy an Offering of the Goddess for, 4, 5, 6 chaos, whatever it's going for. Get that ASAP. Run your Uber Lab. Get that, that defensive ascendancy. If you have it for a 4th one, it will save your life literally in the game. Anyway, that's it for me today. Thank you guys. Hope you guys are having a lot of fun with this league. I can't wait to get back into it. Going to be on Twitch in a few minutes after I post this video. And we're going to keep blasting. We're going to do Exarch and Eater today. It's going to be really, it's going to be a good time. And I really want to get into more of the Necropolis. I want to show you guys. Just want to show you guys real quick. We crafted this yesterday. I just took like a bunch of random corpses. I was like, yeah, more cold, more fire, more elemental, whatever. And I ended up with this. And we got it in like Act 8, Act 9. I crafted this guy really quick in the Necromancer thing. It's really cool. Or the Necropolis mechanic. It's really fun. Let's see what else. I think I made these gloves too. I just went like, give me all the res that you can, and I made these gloves. So yeah, self-crafting your stuff, really cool. Definitely SSF friendly league, I think, for just like having fun making your own gear. All right, anyway. All right, now say bye-bye. Bye-bye, bye-bye. See you on Twitch. Bye-bye, bye.